You won't believe what workers just dug up in Kentucky coal mine. Coal mines are among the oldest human constructions, with thousands of years spent excavating the earth for black gold. But it's not just coal that surfaces from these depths. From a 300-million-year-old iron pot to enigmatic spheres believed to be left by aliens, here are 20 incredible artifacts discovered in coal mines. Number 20. Ancient iron pot. In 1912, a worker at an electric company in Arkansas broke open a big piece of coal and found a pot made of iron. Geologists say that the first coal bed was from the Pennsylvanian period and was about 300 million years old, which means that the pot must be the same age. Well, maybe. Some say this is where the story heats up, and others say this is where the story fizzles out. Skeptics say that the only proof it exists is one person's word, which, isn't very scientific. Also, this object conveniently disappeared, so we can't do anything to verify it. If the object were found today, we would know a lot more about how it was found, where it came from, who made it, and what it was used for, and most importantly, how old it is. We don't know the answers in this case, but what a great idea. Some strange species was cooking even before the dinosaurs. There is a theory about how the pot could have ended up inside the coal. Since the mines are full of puddles of water, the theory goes the water could have hardened and pushed the lost pot into the coal slowly over time. But it remains a mystery. If you don't want to end up in an old mine shaft, why not hit like and subscribe to keep yourself above ground? Number 19. Iron Mask. This woman grew up in an area of Appalachia where coal was mined. Her family had lived in the area for generations, and she told the story of how her father, a miner who had since passed away, once found a cast iron human face in a coal seam. Her father was so happy about this find, and soon his whole family was proud of it. It was hard for him to tell what the object was in the dim underground light, but it looked like a face when he cleared off the coal. Maybe it was an image of someone from a long time ago, like the death masks made of important people like Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt in more recent years. Care was taken to copy and keep all of the face's tiny features, even the cracks and flaws. This must have been an important person to make the first mask. A hardening material like clay would have been used to cover the face of a live or, more likely, dead person to make a reverse cast. The resulting hole was then filled with something more solid, in this case molten iron. Once cool, it made a three-dimensional mask that was a perfect copy of the face. The iron mask is the size of a man's face and weighs 23 kilograms. The top shows the features of the face while the bottom is flat. Wouldn't it be amazing to discover who this person really was one day? Number 18. The Dorp spheres. The Dorp spheres are very strange objects. They are found in pyrophyllite rocks in South Africa, with seam-like lines all around the middle. They look like tiny cricket balls from long ago. It's easy to see why conspiracy theories about aliens and lost civilizations develop around them. In the 1980s, they were thought to have been made by ancient aliens. Aliens made them, or the spheres are actually something known as concretions. Concretions are spherical, elliptical, or oblate things made of minerals different from the mother rock. Thousands of them have been found all over the world. They are usually found in fine-grained rocks like pyrite. The lines on the spheres are left by the host rock, which are built up in layers over a long period of time. Some people have claimed that NASA tests showed that the spheres were so perfectly balanced that alien supergeniuses could only have made them. The spheres are also said to be made of a metal harder than steel, but these are mainly just rumors. You can check them out for yourself, as they have their own museum in South Africa. Number 17. 15-million-year-old shoe print. Albert E. Knapp, who worked for the Nevada Mining Company, made this important and sometimes controversial finding more than 100 years ago. To be exact, it was January 1917 that he uncovered what looks like a very old shoe print. After looking at the rock more closely, several experts concluded that it shows a layer from the heel of a shoe. The mysterious item may have been found in 1917, but it has been around for 200 million years. Microphotography clearly showed that it was similar to a well-made, hand-stitched piece of leather worn by a human foot. In one spot, it was double-stitched and you could see how the thread was twisted. There have been a lot of strange findings in the past that make it possible that modern humans were on Earth much earlier than experts think. Some call these strange discoveries OP-arts, meaning out-of-place artifacts. They push the limits set by mainstream scholars and make us question everything we know about modern people, life on Earth, and the universe itself. Number 16. Ancient amphorae. The Ukrainian military were digging ditches to prepare for a possible Russian attack in the port city of Odessa when they came across many artifacts. Ukrainian 126th Territorial Defense members found ancient containers used to store and move wet and dry goods. Their tall, bottleneck shape was popular in ancient Greek, Roman, and Byzantine pottery, but the oldest examples come from the Neolithic period. Odessa is Ukraine's third-largest city and a key seaport on the country's southwestern coast. The pots were made between the 3rd and 4th centuries BC, when Odessa was a Roman town called Odessus. Due to Russia's military campaign to take over the city, it is currently impossible to document the archaeological site. However, photos shared by the 126th Territorial Defense show its members moving the artifacts and several pieces of broken pottery to the Odessa Archaeological Museum to be preserved. This is an important step, as the Russian army has been wildly looting the country as they continue their invasion. More than 2,000 works of art have been stolen from museums in Mariupol, a port city that Russia has shelled heavily. Russian soldiers are said to have stolen several famous paintings, ancient icons, the Gospel of 1811 from the Venetian printing house for the Greeks of Mariupol, and more than 200 medals from the Museum of Medallion Art. Number 15. 300-million-year-old bell. In 1944, a 10-year-old boy named Newton Richard Anderson found this bell when he dropped a piece of coal and looked inside. The bell belonged to Mr. Anderson until 2007, but not everyone believed his story. So, he took a polygraph test to see if he was telling the truth about finding the bell. The result was that no lies were detected. It seems he really did find a brass bell inside a piece of coal. It's about 20 centimeters tall and has a figure on top that looks like it has one leg, 2 arms, and a head. Some people noticed that this is a picture of Garuda, the huge bird that Lord Vishnu rides on in Hindu mythology. It has eagle wings and a sharp beak. When the bell was analyzed, it was found to be made of copper, zinc, tin, arsenic, iodine, and selenium, which are not used in current alloys. So, at the very least, we can say it is not modern. But this piece of coal was taken from a seam that is thought to be 300 million years old. So how did the bell end up there? We have no idea for now. Ripley's Believe It or Not team heard about the bell and sent someone to check it out, and they were very impressed by this unbelievable find. Number 14. Ancient archaeological site. Deep in an open coal mine in southern Greece, experts have found the oldest archaeological site in the country, which dates back 700,000 years and is linked to the hominin relatives of modern humans. The find would push the start of Greek history back by up to 250,000 years. However, hominid sites have been found in other parts of Europe that are older. One in Spain is more than 1,000,000 years old and is currently the oldest known. The Greek site is one of 5 in the megalopolis area that were studied by an international team of experts over a 5-year project. It was found to have stone tools from the lower Paleolithic period, which was about 3.3 million to 300,000 years ago, and the bones of an ancient species of giant deer, elephants, hippopotamuses, rhinoceroses, and macaque monkeys. The team said that it's possible that the tools were made by Homo antecessor, a species of human that lived at that time in other parts of Europe. Homo antecessor is the last common ancestor that modern humans and our dead cousins, the Neanderthals, shared. The Neanderthals and modern humans split about 800,000 years ago. The tools were made about 700,000 years ago and were probably used to kill animals and cut up wood or other plant matter. The experts said that they were waiting for more tests to get a more accurate date. Number 13. 500-million-year-old zinc vase. In 1852, a strange object buried deep underground for millions of years was found when a quarry was being worked on in Dorchester, Massachusetts, USA. According to geologists, the Roxbury rock in which the item was found dates back to the Ediacaran period, about 570 to 593 million years ago. The item, called the Roxbury rock or Inkar, was found half buried in a piece of rock and was broken into 2 by a blast of mining explosives. It was a bell-shaped piece of pottery made of solid silver and decorated with flowers. Experts have not found evidence that it is less than 100,000 years old. Some of the flowers and plants on the pottery have existed for over 100,000 years. But before a thorough investigation could be made, all of the official documents about the finding of the artifact vanished without a trace. Fancy that. On June 5, 1852, Scientific American magazine wrote about the find and confirmed that the item was found deep below the surface, embedded in a solid piece of old stone. Unfortunately, like many other unusual objects, the item disappeared strangely soon after it was first discussed. The Roxbury rock could have told us something about civilizations and tools that might have been around much earlier than we thought. Number 12. Fossilized rainforest found in a coal mine. Scientists digging in a mine found a natural Sistine Chapel. Instead of religious paintings, it has images of tree trunks and fallen leaves that used to be part of an ancient rainforest. As silt and plant matter built up layer by layer over millions of years, the bands that form show how old things are. The newest, youngest layer is on top, and the oldest is at the bottom. Geologists usually take a vertical piece of rock to study things like fossils that have been there for a long time. A coal mine is a different slice of the past. The roof of an underground mine shows a big area within one of these sediment layers or time periods. You can travel through time when you walk through a mine shaft. Miners in Illinois are used to seeing a few plant fossils on the roof of a mine, but as they dug deeper into this one, they were amazed by how many fossils were there and how much space they took up. The mine has small paths separated by poles that keep the roof from falling in. Walking through these tunnels, you are surrounded by what look like artistic representations of the ancient plant life. A model of the old forest showed that, like today's rainforests, it had a layered structure with a mix of plants, many of which are now extinct. Number 11. Mayan artifacts. Archaeologists in Mexico recently found more than 200 Maya items under the old city of Chichen Itza. Guillermo de Anda, a National Geographic explorer who helped lead the team, said that finding the Yucatan Peninsula cave and the objects, which appear to be from around 1000 AD, was not the team's original goal, but they are certainly a nice bonus. A local person told the archaeologists about the secret cave called Balamku, or Jaguar God. Locals had known about it for many years, and about 50 years ago, some of them told archaeologist Victor Segovia Pinto about it. He had the cave sealed for some reason, so it was forgotten. This time, the explorers chose to look in the cave. They had to crawl on their bellies for hours to get to the valuable artifacts. The archaeologists were originally looking for an entry into a cenote, a natural sinkhole that the ancient Maya thought was sacred and a doorway to the underworld. The cenote is thought to be under a main pyramid in the area called the Temple of Kukulkan. But while looking for that, they came across something even more amazing. The objects are in excellent condition, including decorated plates, clay incense stands, and other things. Researchers may be able to learn more about the rise and fall of the Maya society with the help of this collection. Number 10. Mummy portraits. In the past decades, we've continuously unearthed countless mummies from archaeological sites in Egypt, but have you ever wondered what exactly the people of ancient Egypt looked like? In 2022, archaeologists made an astounding discovery while excavating a site 75 miles southwest of modern-day Cairo, Egypt. For the first time ever, we discovered full-colored portraits that date back to the Ptolemaic period from 305 to 30 BCE. Similar to how most of us practice today, those who lived during the Greco-Roman period in ancient Egypt paid their respects to the dead and commemorated them by hanging up detailed paintings of them that were made when they were still alive. Unfortunately, not all of the coffins discovered across Egypt had portraits on them. Only several coffins were found decorated with detailed images of their owners. One of the most popular paintings discovered belonged to an Egyptian boy who died at a young age. Unlike what most people would imagine, the portraits were incredibly detailed with realistic eyes, facial features, and realistic jewelry. Collectively, these portraits are known as the Fayum portraits because of their plentiful numbers in the Fayum oasis. Most of the people who had the privilege of getting these portraits belonged to the elite of ancient Egypt. Not only was mummification considered a privilege at the time, but commissioning a detailed portrait was also reserved for the wealthy. Number 9. The Venus of Willendorf. The so-called Venus of Willendorf was found in a small town in Austria in 1908. It is thought to be between 25,000 and 30,000 years old. This piece of art comes from the Paleolithic era of human history, before writing was invented or human cities were built. The fact that this figurine's breasts, stomach, and thighs are all bigger than they should be means it was likely made as a piece of fertility symbolism. However, its real meaning and purpose are still unknown. Since it is clear that the base material oolitic limestone is not from Austria, either the raw material or the finished sculpture must have traveled at some point in its long life. Because the stone is so old compared to the carving, it has been hard to figure out how the Venus of Willendorf was made. Researchers now agree that it was made between 25,000 and 30,000 years ago during the Gravettian age of the last ice age. If this is true, it is one of the oldest depictions of the human body in 3 dimensions that we know of. Number 8. Olmec colossal heads. In the late 1850s, a worker on a farm in the southern part of the Mexican state of Veracruz was cutting down trees to make room for a cornfield. As he cut through branches and bushes, he came across a big stone object that was partly hidden. The worker thought at first that the stone was a big pot that had been turned over, forgotten, and covered with dirt. But as he cleaned off the dirt and dug around the edges, he saw that the stone was carefully cut to look like a huge head. Archaeologists would find 17 more stone heads in nearby places over time. These artifacts, called the Olmec colossal heads, have helped scientists learn more about the people who lived there thousands of years ago. Most researchers agree that the Olmec colossal heads probably depicted rulers who were commemorated either during or after their lifetime. Each of the Olmec colossal heads has a different face, and some have claws or jaguar paws on their headdresses. There are also signs that they were once painted in bright colors. Another reason experts think they are images of fabulous kings. Number 7. 400-million-year-old hammer. In June 1936, Emma Z. Hahn and her husband Max Edmund Hahn were walking along Red Creek in London, Texas. They saw a piece of wood sticking out of what looked like an old rock formation and decided to take it home. The story goes that about 10 years later, their son broke open the rock to see what was inside, and there was a hammer concealed within. What makes it even stranger is that it was a relatively modern hammer. A lot of people jumped on this find to cite it as proof for creationism. They said that the modern hammer was probably from the last few hundred years, and it showed that people lived with dinosaurs at that time. According to them, this was because the world is only a few thousand years old. The truth was that the hammer was new, but it was stuck in the very old rock because of natural processes that some people didn't understand, or maybe didn't want to understand. The rock structure was a very cool find, but it wasn't as old as it looked. Most likely, a worker dropped the hammer about 100 years ago or maybe a little earlier. The rock then grew around it. Sadly, it wasn't proof that the Flintstones were real. Number 6. Medieval ring. Not all of the most significant archaeological discoveries are found by professionals. Sometimes ordinary people and hobbyists stumble upon the greatest finds. In 2022, 69-year-old David Board was going about his day. Around noon, he decided to visit a field in Dorset in southwestern England along with his trusty metal detector. David set out and tried his luck. After years of being a metal detector hobbyist, it was normal for him to discover nothing but several pieces of trash. There were the occasional small items that people lost, but that was about it. Little did he know that he would discover something incredibly significant that day. About 5 inches underground, he unearthed a gold band. He thought it was an ordinary accessory, but when he got home and washed it properly, he realized that he had stumbled upon a golden diamond ring in near-perfect condition. He brought the ring to the British Museum, where it was dated and authenticated by experts who verified the ring's age. It turned out that the ring's origin could be traced back to medieval times in the 1300s. Unlike the wedding rings today, rings back then were handcrafted one by one. They weren't mass-produced, and only the wealthy and elite could have them made. The ring had an intricate design, and at its center was a small diamond. It turned out that the ring was given to Lady Joan Brooke by her husband, Sir Thomas Brooke, who was a wealthy man. The two were wed in 1388, and the gold band sealed their promise. Inside the band is a French inscription that roughly translates to, "I hold your faith, hold mine." Now I don't know about you, but that's insanely romantic. Number 5. Thousands of pits near Stonehenge. In Salisbury Plain, Wiltshire, England, are several monoliths arranged in an intriguing circle. This arrangement is known as Stonehenge, and it's recognized as the most famous prehistoric monument in the entire globe. Since its discovery, Stonehenge has been shrouded in mystery. It was built around 5,000 years ago during the late Neolithic Age, but its construction didn't finish until around 1,500 BC during the early Bronze Age. For so long, people have questioned why Stonehenge was built in the first place and how people thousands of years ago managed to arrange massive monoliths in such an intricate arrangement. These questions baffled scientists and ordinary people for centuries, and although there are several theories that try to explain the mystery behind the prehistoric monuments, a lot of questions remain. Scientists have figured out a way for people to erect massive stones and stack them on top of each other without the help of aliens, because extraterrestrial creatures are always the ones behind every astounding structure built during the prehistoric period. Experts also came up with theories as to why Stonehenge was built in the first place. It was either a burial site or a place for rituals and ceremonies. Just when we were starting to piece the puzzle together, another blank space revealed itself. In 2020, archaeologists announced that they discovered a series of deep pits around Stonehenge. Initially, researchers were clueless as to what the pits were, how they formed, and why they surrounded the site in the first place. It wasn't until a year later that scientists discovered what exactly the holes were. It turned out that the deep pits were man-made. The strange holes were perfectly aligned, forming a circle that's about 1.2 miles in diameter. So why exactly did people from thousands of years ago work so hard to dig these holes around Stonehenge? Scientists believed that the gaping pits served as a way for people to trap animals more than 4,000 years ago. Thousands of pits were discovered around the area in varying sizes. Some of them measured about 8 feet in diameter, while others were smaller. Initially, there were doubts about the purpose of the pits, but after one of the oldest pits was discovered littered with stone tools used for hunting, scientists became more confident that the pits were used for trapping game. Number 4. Alien alloy found in Russian coal mine. A lump of aluminum that looks like human hands made it has been held up as proof that aliens came to Earth 250,000 years ago. Humans didn't make metallic aluminum until about 200 years ago, so the big piece that could be up to 250,000 years old is being called a stunning find. But because it was found in communist Romania in 1973, the details of the find were never made public at the time. 3 objects were found 10 meters below the ground by builders working near Iad in the center of Romania. They seemed strange and very old, so scientists were called in. They quickly figured out that 2 of them were fossils. The third seemed to be a very light piece of metal that humans made. It was thought that it might be part of an axe. All 3 were sent to Cluj, the largest city of the Romanian region of Transylvania, to be looked at more closely. Experts quickly discovered that the 2 big bones came from a large mammal that went extinct between 10,000 and 880,000 years ago. However, they were shocked to find that the third item was a manufactured metal alloy. Studies showed that the object was made of 12 different metals, with 90% of it being aluminum. Romanian officials figured out that the object is 250,000 years old based on the studies. A lab in Lausanne, Switzerland, later agreed with the first results. Other experts who did tests later said the dates were much different, ranging from 400 to 880,000 years old. Even at 400 years old, it would still be 200 years before aluminum was created for the first time. Number 3. 2,000-year-old earthquake detector. Zhang Heng lived in China during the Han era. He was a scholar who tried his hand at things like astronomy, math, science, engineering, map-making, and writing, among other things. Because of his math skills, the emperor called him to the royal court. In AD 132, he showed his invention to the royal court in Luoyang, and one of them was a seismoscope or an earthquake-detecting device. Even though there are no pictures or actual remains of his seismoscope, it was described by ancient historians as a big bronze instrument with a shape like an urn or a vase. On the outside of this were 8 dragons, each with a metal ball in its mouth. Under these mythical projections, there were 8 metal toads with their mouths open, ready to catch the balls if they fell. In the event of an earthquake, the shaking would make the pendulum move, which would set off one of the gears inside. The dragon would drop its ball into the toad's mouth, letting the court know that an earthquake had happened and in what general direction it came from, so the government would know where to send help. Each dragon and toad was connected to a direction point like north, northwest, west, etc. Even though Zhang's gadget is almost 2,000 years old, the idea behind how it works is still used today. Number 2. Sacred objects. Archaeologists in Mexico found a glittering tunnel full of religious objects, and it may lead to royal tombs in Teotihuacan, an ancient city in Mexico. The lead Mexican archaeologist on the project said that a tunnel found in the old Mexican city of Teotihuacan is full of thousands of ritual objects and may represent an underworld that ends in amazing royal tombs. Archaeologist Sergio Gomez has told reporters that the opening to the 1,800-year-old tunnel was found in 2003. Some of the tunnel's contents were then uncovered thanks to digs by remote-controlled robots and later by archaeology teams. Dust from metallic minerals like pyrite and magnetite covers the tunnel's walls and roof. This probably means that when they lit a torch, the whole place would light up and look like the sky and stars. People have found jewelry, shells, and beautifully carved stone sculptures inside. This must have been a spectacular sight once upon a time. Now time for today's topic. The Black Mountain coal mine in Harlan County, Kentucky, was unexpectedly shut down after workers uncovered a bizarre and terrifying artifact deep within the earth. As the miners were digging into one of the oldest coal seams, they were met with a sight straight out of a nightmare. A massive, cube-shaped object with long, twisted tendrils extending from its sides, buried beneath layers of rock and sand. The alien-like structure appeared organic yet ancient, with an unsettling resemblance to a creature from another world. The artifact was embedded in the sandstone ceiling of the mine, its origin and purpose completely unknown. The strange object's presence, deep within the earth, left workers and experts alike both awestruck and horrified. Despite the miners' efforts, the object was impossible to remove without risking the stability of the entire mine. Authorities quickly intervened, sealing off the area and ordering the mine's immediate closure. Speculation ran wild. Was this some long-lost creation of an ancient civilization, a petrified creature from a forgotten era, or perhaps something not of this earth? The discovery sparked endless debate, but no definitive answers were ever found. The mine remains closed to this day, shrouded in mystery and guarded by the secrets buried deep within the Kentucky soil. Number 1. The Baghdad Battery. Since its discovery, the ancient battery of Baghdad has piqued the curiosity of archaeologists. Was this the first battery cell ever created or something far less interesting? If you didn't know better, the Baghdad Battery might seem like nothing more than a clay jar with an iron rod coming out of the top, but the ancient artifact's discoverer, Wilhelm Koenig, had little trouble determining its purpose. He realized it was a kind of battery and one that predates all others by hundreds of years. The Baghdad Battery is composed of 3 separate parts. There is the lid, which has been damaged. The second component is an iron rod, and the third is a copper cylinder that housed the rod. The rod would have protruded from the jar's lid. This is a sure sign that it had some electrical use. Numerous ancient civilizations have made medical use of electricity. It may have had a similar purpose as when the Greeks strapped electric fish to their feet to alleviate pain. Yes, they really did that, and maybe this was a similar treatment that didn't require going fishing. Another possibility is that the battery was hidden inside sculptures of gods to buzz their worshippers as a kind of trick. Do you think that any of these finds change history? How did these strange things end up in coal mines? Let us know in the comments below. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you in the next video.